Hello there, amazing people. I'm just looking over my microphone because I'm doing a copying here. I'm going to make a video that is a little bit weird. It's strange, but I'm going to defend Windows. People are calling me a Windows shill. I'm a Windows fanboy, and Windows this and Windows that, and I'm being paid off by Microsoft, and Bill Gates is living in my butthole, and all of those kind of things. So let me shill for Windows for however long this video is. So I'm going to defend Windows. I'm going to sell you Windows. I'm not going to, well, let's say sell you. I'm going to give you some interesting, good points about Windows that seems to be forgotten or not understood by a lot of people. I'm not going to defend telemetry. I'm not going to defend data collection and stuff like that. It's bad under any circumstance, on any fucking system and stuff like that. I don't like Windows doing it. Well, telemetry to some extent. Some telemetry I'm okay with. Data collection I'm not okay with, even though it goes under kind of the same thing. So I'm okay with, like, when my system crashes, it's kind of okay, those kind of things. I'm okay with that. But how often I open up fucking Pornhub, or how often I use, Task Manager and stuff like that, I'm not okay with that. Yeah, you get what I'm saying here. So I'm not going to defend that. That's kind of bad. There is, again, not everything is black and white. Some telemetry and data collection is good, some is bad, okay? It's when it go in and be personalized, it's bad. That's a discussion for another case. But every places do it. One of the things that I find really hypocritical is that people are yelling and screaming at Windows over here for doing those things while they're sitting here on YouTube, using Google, using their fucking smartphones, tablets, having credit cards, cars, and all of those are taking telemetry and data collection from. Yeah, credit cards, yeah. The store you go into is collecting data about you as a customer, okay? Your bank, everything you do in life, everywhere you go, you are being prodded, analyzed, looked at, fondled, and all of those things. But for some reason, it's bad under Windows. That I find massively hypocritical. Massively hypocritical. It's kind of like, and I've seen people like this, they're like, I don't want to use makeup that's been used on animals, like cruelty-free product. But they willy-nilly go and buy a fucking handbag made out of real skin, or a mink coat or stuff like that. And then they're telling themselves, oh, they are being treated better than the animals that are being tested, lipstick on or something. Like, I don't like a monkey getting lipstick on their lip, but I'm okay with, like, minks and stuff like that, and, animals that are being held in crazy fucking conditions. They willy-nilly just buy eggs out of the shell without looking at free-range eggs and stuff like that, where those creatures are probably being treated way worse than a monkey with lipstick on, to see if it gets an allergic reaction. That monkey is probably being treated way better than any animal that we have in our life that we are utilizing for either food or clothes in our life. That monkey or those rats or whatever is being tested with that gets lipstick on their butthole are probably being treated way better than any of those animals are. But no, I'm not going to wear I'm only going to use cruelty-free makeup, but then I'm going to do, I'm going to the fucking shop and buying a steak, buying eggs and stuff like that. That's kind of how I look at it when people are criticizing Windows for what it does with telemetry and stuff like that. That went over. If Windows was the worst operating system in the world, why are most people happy with it? Are there things that people bitch and moan about? Yes. But overall, even those bitching and moaning about Windows, even myself, a lot of them will not change, because just like a girlfriend, boyfriend, friendship, workplaces, there are things about those situations that you don't like. There may be something that really irritates you about your wife or husband, but you still love them because there are more good things than there are bad. There's maybe this one specific, we have to do these fucking Monday meetings every Monday. I hate them. But everything else is great at your job. And for a lot of people, that's how they look at Windows. It has a few things that they really don't like, Windows updates and all of those kind of things, but it's giving them so much other things that they really enjoy. And a lot of those things are not even accessible on other places than Windows. And then, of course, you will say, well, you fat, stupid idiot. That's right there. You just hit it on the nail on the head. It's not accessible anywhere. What if it became accessible anywhere else? It will not matter. Because not only do Windows, I was about to say Linux there, Freudian slip, some will say. Not only do Windows provide people with what they want, it's also doing it in ways that other systems are not. The closest is Mac OS. Linux and FreeBSD and Hyper and all of those, just from a usability standpoint or convenience standpoint, living with it on a daily basis standpoint, are massively different than Windows. It's way easier to fuck those systems up than Windows, okay? Windows is doing so much to protect itself. It has so many protection features built into it that if you activate them, you can almost run Windows while you're pissed drunk and not ruining anything. Where under Linux, and some say that's a feature, some say it's not, but under Linux and FreeBSD and stuff like that, if you're pissed off your fucking head and ass and you headbang your keyboard, you can break your system really easy. Again, some will say, well, that's a feature, that it's because you have more control and so on and so on. But most people don't want that. They don't want a car that breaks down periodically because then they can get to tinker with it. They don't want a car that if they just yank too fucking hard on the steering wheel, their wheels falls off or stuff like that. They want a predictable, reliable car. And that's what they're getting with Windows. It's predictable. It's the most used system. They're getting exposed to it the most. They know how it works. And it's maybe not be as stable as Linux if you're going that route, but it's not massively less stable than Linux. So if Linux is 100% stable, Windows would be like 98% stable. Like, you barely will notice those 2% when we're talking Windows 7, 8, 10, and 11. We forgot 9, by the way. So all of the issues that are driving people over to Linux and sometimes to Mac OS, most people don't see those as an issue because Windows provide so much more than just those things. And the things that Windows provide, they value more. Like, oh, well, Linux is really great on servers and IoT devices. Why should home users not use that? Well, they're not running a server and IoT devices. Windows users or desktop users, how many of you are running a SQL server at home or Apache server at home and stuff like that? So, or supercomputers. So all of those things that Linux is exceeding at makes no sense for the market that Windows is in. And the market Windows is in, Windows is exceeding massively there compared to Linux. There are more people that have gone from Windows to Linux and back to Windows than there are Linux users. It's just a matter of facts. It's been around for 30 something years, Linux, and it's only 3% of the market share. And almost every, if you're just talking IT professionals, every IT professionals know about Linux, and they have more than likely tried it one time. And there are way more IT professionals than there are Linux desktop users. There are a lot of home users know what Linux is right now, and a lot of them have tried it, and they're not using it on the desk. Windows is doing something right. More importantly, Windows is doing the right things right for the desktop use. It's not doing the right things right for web servers. That's why Linux is close to 50% of the web server market, according to the latest data, last year's data, by the way, where Windows and Windows combined with Unix and other systems, they are over 50%, of the rest is done by Linux. Linux is probably the biggest one operating system market share of web server. But then we go over to file servers. That primarily is dominated by Windows, because for a file server, Windows is doing the right thing. We're going over to IoT devices. That's primarily dominated by Linux. Linux do the right things for IoT. Just like Windows as a home desktop, even as a workstation, is doing the right thing, the important right thing for those tasks. And yes, some of that is also you have the access to the software that you want to run and stuff like that. Play a little bit of a part. But even if we got Adobe and Autodesk and all of these kind of things over to Linux, Windows will still win because of the predictability. It's what people know, and it's taking the right boxes for non-IT professionals. And non-IT professional, aka hobbyists, home users, accountants, artists and stuff like that, they are way more, like, I will not say billion times more, but way more of those than there are people like you and me. So Windows tick those boxes off for the majority of people. Microsoft spends probably billions of dollars in research and development to tick those boxes off. I say this a lot. If Windows was really the worst operating system to ever exist, nobody would use it. If something is the best and it's easily obtainable, everyone would be using it. Everyone would be using it. Go on to Twitch and ask your live streamers, hey, have you tried Linux? Have you heard about Linux? They probably have. A big portion of them will say, yeah, I've heard about it. Not for me. Or I tried it. Not for me. Why? Because it's not the best for live streaming. Yeah, games may run on it. It may be a little bit more efficient than Windows is. But what about my Elgato software? What about my peripherals? What about all of the extra things that I do on a daily basis to run a successful stream? They will ask. And what about, again, an update under Linux can easily break fucking shit? Or what about if I press the wrong fucking key combination and now the kernel is removed and stuff like that? Windows protects them against that. And Windows makes sure, oh, I just got a message. Windows makes sure that it takes those boxes off. You don't hear Linux come out and say, we have now spent 1 year making gaming and streaming way more efficient under Linux. You hear a little bit of a Wayland here and a little bit of, oh, we're using a different kind of memory scheduling to make games run a little bit better. We hear a little bit about the Steam or Valve patches to the kernel that makes games run a little bit better. But you don't hear them being like, we hear you. We are going to make Linux the best fucking live streaming platform ever. We don't hear that. And that's because it's not the focus of Linux, to be honest. It's the corporate world. But Windows do. One of the biggest gimmicks, or one of the biggest selling point of Windows 11 was gaming. Run games better under Windows. They spent a lot of fucking money, effort making games run better under Windows. DirectX 12 Ultimate, or XPass, and all of these fucking technologies. We have the Xbox Game Bar now that a lot of people use for something as simple as taking frame rates measurement. They spend a lot of time doing that because they know it's important to the customer. For believe it or not, or for better or worse, Windows is way more in tune with their customers than any other operating. Maybe Mac OS is close to it, but Microsoft understand what the Windows customers want. And yes, they are sometimes doing dubious things like, oh, you need to have TPM to upgrade to this version and blah blah blah. I'm not saying they are perfect, but they are more in tune with what the end user want than definitely Linux. Like, there is no Linux distribution really working on what the end user really want. Let's be honest here. Like I said, you don't see a Linux distribution spending a year trying to make gaming and live streaming better under Linux. Valve is a company that do it, but they are more focused on the Steam Deck. We're just benefiting on the desktop. Totally different video. You don't see them being like, let's unify the user experience under Linux. You don't hear that. You don't hear like, let's make sure that the conversion from Linux people from Windows is as smooth and as streamlined as possible. Let's make a shit ton of tools to help the migration and stuff like that. Let's make sure that they can run the software they want to run. You barely hear that with Linux, but Windows do. They go out and talk to developers. They go out and spend billions of dollars on research and development and relationships between software houses and stuff like that. Linux is just sitting over here in the corner doing its own thing, and then like, if you're not doing what we are doing, you're batshit crazy and you should not be around. Fuck you. Go away. You're not allowed to play with us. Mac OS do the same. They spend millions, billions of dollars giving the user what the user want instead of telling the user what they should be doing. Yes, they do that sometimes. Like I said, the TPM is kind of telling the user what to do. But here again, what is one of the biggest criticisms about Windows? It's unsecure. So when they implement a security factor that makes it way more secure, it's getting yelled at because it requires me to buy new hardware. Well, security and convenience is not something that mix well together. The more convenient it is, the less secure it is. If you really want to be secure and you're really bitching and moaning about Windows being unsecure, you will be welcoming a TPM mod. And by the way, the TPM thing is MIT licensed, done as an open source project. Just so you know it. Linux supports it. Linux is heavily invested in it. Just throwing that out there. So yeah, like again, I find it highly hypocritical that people are bitching and moaning about Windows being unsecure, and then they are doing stuff to make it way more secure than it ever has been, but oh, it's inconvenient for me because I have to upgrade my hardware, therefore it's bad. Well, security is inconvenient. If you really want security, ask yourself this: is this an inconvenience for me? If not, then it's not secure. It's that simple. It's just the level of insecurity. It's the level of inconveniences that you want to go through because, okay, this is way too inconvenient for the amount of security that it provides us. Like, locking your door is not that inconvenient, it's still inconvenient, but it's not too inconvenient from the security that it gives you. But locking your door and then, putting bricks in front of the door and taking them away every time, making a brick wall every time you go in and out of your door. Yeah, it will make it more secure, but not massively more secure, and it's way more inconvenient to do. You get the idea here. And again, for most people that use a computer, they don't give a fuck about it being Windows, Linux, Mac OS, or whatever. They just care about, can I do what I want to do? And is it easy? Do the operating system get out of my way? And can I get to do gaming, working, whatever I want to do under my system as fast and easy as possible? Windows ticks all of those boxes. Mac OS ticks most of those boxes, if not all of them all. Mac OS biggest hindrance is that it's Mac hardware related. If Mac OS was widely available for everyone and it could run on any hardware iteration, that, you know, the same as like if Mac OS could run or became available just like Windows, like Apple is like, you know what, Apple don't make money on Mac OS. They don't. They make money on hardware. If they're like, you know what, install Mac OS on whatever fucking device you want, and they made Mac OS able to do so, it will single-handedly kill Linux, definitely kill Linux, and it will take a big fucking chunk out of Windows on the desktop. It will kill whatever FreeBSD have on the market yet, and it will, I'm sure it will kill off Linux on the, like, Linux will become insignificant if that happens. The problem with Mac OS is that it's related to Mac hardware. But a lot of people wouldn't mind running Mac OS. Again, a thing that is massively lacking in a lot of Linux distributions. And yes, you may be able to set your fat ass and do things, but one day something breaks. And I'm not talking about is it going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. Where under Windows, I've run this Windows installed for 7 years now. Never reinstalled it, just upgrading. For 7 years. Started out as Windows 10, now it's Windows 11. For 7 years. No reinstall, nothing. Game on it, edit on it, and all of that fucking shit. Try and run any Linux distribution that's not purposely built to be a bare bones server installed. So I'm talking run Ubuntu desktop, run Arch as a desktop, run Debian as a fucking desktop, you know, with GNOME or KDE or XFCE. And video edit on it, game on it, have peripherals connected to it in and out. Change hardware 4 or 5 times as I have. Just taking the SSD and then transferring it over. Try and do that for 7 years without having to reinstall your Linux distribution. That is never going to happen. I have ran Linux for 25 years and I can tell you, you cannot run Linux the same way that I've been running Windows 10 and 11 for 7 years without having to reinstall. It's just not possible. Yes, you can slim it down, put it on a server and run it, you know, bare bone TTY in a server, or put it on a server and not install any new software on it or anything like that. You customize it. This is how it's going to be. It's not going to change or anything like that. And then just do software updates. Yes, you can do it like that. But as a home desktop environment, I dare you to do that. The longest I've seen someone is going 1 year without a reboot, and then they had to reboot. About a year or so more than doing a reboot. My Windows machine has been running non-stop for 8 days. Gaming, editing, porn, everything you can dream of. I can do that with Windows. Run it non-stop for 8 days. There's not been any updates that required me a reboot. I think there is one pending right now, to be honest. But in 8 days, there were no update that required me a reboot or recommended me a reboot. Almost every update under Linux, either you have to manually restart the services yourself or they recommend a reboot. Not under Windows. Yeah, Windows is not that bad. It's just run by bad people. You know, like humans are making bad decisions what Windows do and don't do. But as a technology, as a operating system that do operating system tasks for a desktop user at home or hobbyist, it's really not bad. It's actually really fucking good. Are there systems that give you more control? Yeah. But that don't matter for most people. I thought it mattered to me. I don't care that I can't install a new desktop environment. I really don't care that I can't customize the UI so much under Windows. I just install wallpaper and I'm happy. Wallpapers and a dark theme, I'm happy. Under Linux, when I run Linux, I do the same shit. Install wallpapers and use a dark theme. This whole, the power to customize, it gets boring really fast. And control, most Linux users, their control, what they are doing with Linux, their tinkering with Linux is more the user land and software. So they're tinkering Samba, they're tinkering KDE, they're tinkering GNOME, they're tinkering everything but Linux, the kernel. 9 out of 10 Linux users do nothing with the kernel. They just install the kernel that comes with the system and leave it be. And anything besides the kernel and the UI, well, you can't do the UI if you know what you're doing, but let's just for the sake of argument say anything besides the kernel and the Windows UI, you can tweak and configure and tinker just like Linux. Again, besides the kernel and the UI. You want to fiddle around with programs under Windows, they have config file, they have configurations folders, they have terminal command you can mess with. So the aspects of Linux that people configure is the same aspect that us Linux nerds configure or Windows nerds configure. I'm scripting tools to do stuff for Windows that work just like I would if it was a Linux machine. And it's just done in a different way, but it's the same shit. Automation. I'm automating tasks. Linux are doing it under Bash. Windows are doing it PowerShell. And I'm automating the same fucking tasks. It's ticking the right boxes, man. Windows understand, or Microsoft understand, that the kernel most people not doing much with, so we don't allow them that much power. And also it could really fuck shit up. The UI, well, we kind of want that to be consistent, so it's easier to give support and help people. That we don't have to ask them, okay, what environment are you using now? And what have you done to the environment before we even start to help? And then there's a few little things that you can't do in user land and besides that. But Windows are giving people the right amount of tinkability and the right amount of protection from tinkability. So they are like, you can tinker with these things and you can fuck a lot of stuff up with these things. But these things here, you can tinker with them if you're really adventurous, but we have put a lot of roadblocks in front of them that you need to go over. Like if you can only do it if you're a system administrator, and we are putting warning signs up your face all the time, and you can probably only do it sometimes if you're in safe mode and stuff like that. So unless you really understand what you're doing, you can't do it, so you don't critically break the system, even though it's doable to critically break any system. But you get what I'm coming at here. They understand their customers enough to that this is good for the consumer, this is good for the pro. And then how much do the pro do versus the consumer? Where are the pros not messing around? Well, if they don't mess around there, why the fuck should they then have the opportunity to do so if it's not necessary? Get what I'm coming at here. It ticks all the boxes, people, for most people. See you all later. Bye bye.